By the time I realized my marriage was already over, I wasn't angry anymore. I was alert. That's the stage people never talk about. The moment when heartbreak turns into awareness. When you stop asking why and start asking how long. When love fades, not because you stopped caring, but because caring started costing too much. My name is Julian Mercer, and for 12 years, I built my life around one woman. Vanessa. We had routines that looked solid from the outside. Morning coffee at opposite ends of the kitchen island. Short texts during work hours. Polite conversations over dinner. A marriage that functioned efficiently, like a company that forgot its mission but still paid the bills. But intimacy doesn't vanish overnight. It erodes. Vanessa used to tell me everything. Then she started telling me nothing and calling it privacy. She began dressing with intention again, not for me, but for the door. Her phone never left her side, always angled away like a secret she physically guarded. When I asked simple questions, she answered defensively, like I was interrogating instead of caring. So I stopped asking. Instead, I watched. I noticed how Tuesdays suddenly required late meetings. How her smile appeared while texting, but disappeared when she looked up at me. How she criticized my calm, my patience, my silence. As if she needed me to become unbearable to justify what she was doing. People who cheat rarely see themselves as villains. They rewrite the story, so betrayal feels earned. I let her rewrite it. I became quieter, more distant, less present. I let her believe I was drifting, distracted, unaware. I let her believe she was smarter. That illusion protected her, and it protected me even more. The first real confirmation didn't come from her phone, or her clothes, or her schedule. It came from a name she mentioned too casually. Colin. She dropped it in a conversation one evening like it was nothing. A colleague. Someone who understood her. A man I supposedly didn't need to worry about. I nodded. That night, while Vanessa slept beside me, breathing evenly like she had nothing to hide, I sat in the dark and did what I should have done months earlier. I searched. Not aggressively. Methodically. Colin wasn't just a coworker. He had a home. A life. A wife. Her name was Rachel Avery. I found her profile easily. Too easily. Family photos. Anniversary captions. Smiles that looked practiced but tired. She had the same look I saw in the mirror every morning. The look of someone who felt something was wrong but couldn't prove it. I stared at her picture longer than I expected. Then I did something that changed the direction of all our lives. I reached out. I didn't accuse. I didn't threaten. I didn't expose anything. I sent one sentence. Hi. I think our spouses share more than work. Her response didn't come right away. But when it did, it was short, controlled, and devastating. I was hoping I was wrong, she wrote. That was the moment the story stopped being about pain and started becoming about precision. Because when two betrayed people stop crying and start comparing notes, the truth doesn't just come out. It lines itself up. Vanessa still thought I was clueless. Still thought I was falling behind her emotionally. Still believed she was in control of the narrative. She had no idea I was already planning the moment when every lie would meet the light. Calmly, publicly, and without mercy. And she definitely didn't know that the woman who would be sitting across from me when it happened wasn't who she thought she was. Rachel didn't reply with questions. She replied with dates. That was the first thing that told me she already knew more than she was saying. Her message came in late, just after midnight. I was sitting alone in the living room, lights off, the soft hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. Vanessa was asleep upstairs, her phone charging face down like always, as if gravity itself could keep the truth from spilling out. Rachel wrote, last Thursday, business dinner that ran late. Saturday morning gym session. And 2 weeks ago, overnight conference that mysteriously moved cities. My chest tightened, not because I was surprised, but because every date matched perfectly with Vanessa's excuses. That's when I understood something important. This wasn't just my marriage collapsing. It was two carefully constructed lies overlapping so neatly they thought they were invisible. I asked Rachel if she wanted proof. She said no. I already have enough, she wrote. What I don't have is clarity. We talked the next day. Not on the phone, too risky. We met in person, quietly, like people who didn't want to be seen, but also didn't want to be alone anymore. It wasn't dramatic. No tears. No raised voices. Just two adults sitting across from each other in a quiet cafe, realizing how much of their lives had been edited without consent. Rachel was calm in a way that came from exhaustion, not strength. She told me how Colin had slowly become someone else, more distant, more critical, more impatient with her questions. How he accused her of being paranoid whenever she noticed the changes. I listened, and for the first time in months, I felt understood. We compared timelines, messages, patterns, little inconsistencies that, alone, meant nothing, but together told a very clear story. Vanessa and Colin weren't just having an affair. They were planning. Trips that aligned. Stories that mirrored each other. Complaints about their spouses that sounded rehearsed, almost scripted. They were bonding over dissatisfaction they helped create. That realization hurt more than the betrayal itself, because it meant Vanessa wasn't just careless. She was intentional. Rachel asked me what I wanted to do. I didn't answer right away. Revenge isn't about anger. Anger rushes things, ruins timing, makes you sloppy. I told her the truth. I don't want to destroy them, I said. I want them to face exactly what they built, without us yelling, begging, or chasing. Rachel nodded slowly. That's what I want too. That was the moment the alliance formed. Not out of spite, but out of dignity. From that day on, we moved carefully. We didn't confront. We didn't leak anything. We let Vanessa and Colin keep thinking they were winning. I went back to playing my role. The quiet husband. The distracted partner. The man too tired to notice when his wife came home late with excuses that barely made sense anymore. Vanessa mistook my calm for weakness. She started testing boundaries, canceling plans last minute, criticizing me openly, telling friends I had checked out. She needed witnesses for her narrative. I gave her exactly what she wanted. Distance. But behind that distance, I was preparing. Rachel and I agreed on one rule: no emotional decisions. Everything had to be clean, measured, undeniable. We gathered information, not illegally, not obsessively, just patiently. Screenshots volunteered by the cheaters themselves. Voicemails they assumed would never matter. Stories that contradicted each other when placed side by side. The more we collected, the quieter we became. And that silence terrified them without them realizing it. Vanessa began pushing harder. She started arguments over nothing. Dirty dishes, missed calls, the way I breathed. She wanted me to explode so she could justify what she was doing. I never did. Instead, I smiled more. I became polite, almost pleasant. That unsettled her. One night, she asked me directly if something was wrong. I looked at her for a long moment, really looked at her, the woman I once trusted without hesitation. And I said no. What? She studied my face like she was searching for a crack. She didn't find one, because by then, I wasn't lying anymore. Something had changed. I had stopped needing her honesty to move forward. Rachel and I met one last time before the plan went into motion. She asked me if I was ready. I told her I wasn't nervous. That surprised her. Aren't you afraid it'll blow up? She asked. I shook my head. They already blew it up, I said. We're just stepping out of the way. The plan wasn't cruel. It wasn't loud. It was precise. We chose a night they couldn't avoid, a setting that demanded composure, a moment where denial would collapse under its own weight. No shouting, no scenes, no begging, just truth delivered calmly in front of the people they had been lying to the most. Vanessa still thought she was in control. She had no idea the woman she would see that night wasn't a stranger, and that every step she took toward the table would feel heavier than the last. Because when lies run out of places to hide, silence becomes the loudest weapon of all. The night we chose didn't look special on the surface. That was intentional. No grand event. No milestone. Just an ordinary evening wrapped in soft lighting and polite conversation. The kind of place where people expected calm, not consequences. Vanessa suggested dinner. That alone told me everything. She'd been distant for weeks, unpredictable, sharp with her words. But that afternoon, she was suddenly warm again. Thoughtful, almost nostalgic. She mentioned how long it had been since we'd gone out together. Said we needed to reconnect. I agreed without hesitation. She didn't notice how quickly I said yes. She spent extra time getting ready, changed outfits twice, applied makeup with care, like someone preparing for an audience. When she asked how she looked, I told her the truth. Confident, I said. She smiled, satisfied with the word. At the restaurant, everything unfolded slowly. A hostess guided us to a table near the center, open enough to be seen, private enough to feel safe. Vanessa talked about work, about plans she was excited about how she felt like she was finally stepping into herself. I listened, and I understood. She wasn't talking to me. She was rehearsing the future she believed she'd already secured. I excused myself once, just long enough to confirm the timing. Rachel was already there, seated, calm, waiting. When I returned, Vanessa's mood had shifted. She sensed something, not danger, but imbalance. Her eyes flicked around the room, scanning, assessing. Then she saw her. It happened in stages. First confusion, then recognition, then fear. Her forward paused midair. Her smile froze. She stared across the room at Rachel like she was seeing a ghost. Do you know her? I asked lightly. Vanessa swallowed. No, she said too quickly. Rachel stood. She didn't rush, didn't hesitate. She walked over with steady steps and a composure that couldn't be mistaken for coincidence. Vanessa's voice dropped. What is this? I remained seated. Rachel stopped at our table, met Vanessa's eyes, and spoke with calm precision. Hi, Vanessa, she said. I'm Rachel. The name hit like a door slamming shut. Vanessa looked at me, then back at her, then at me again, searching for an explanation that wasn't coming. I set my napkin down carefully. She's married to Colin, I said quietly. The man you've been spending so much time with. The air changed. Not dramatic. Heavy. Vanessa's face flushed, then drained. Her mouth opened, closed. She laughed once, short and hollow, like disbelief could undo facts. This is insane, she said. You set me up. No, I replied. You built this. People nearby noticed the shift. Conversation slowed. Chairs creaked as attention drifted in our direction. Rachel remained standing. I didn't come here to yell, she said. I came because I was tired of being lied to. Vanessa turned on her. You don't know anything about my marriage. Rachel nodded. I know enough about mine. Silence followed. Thick, unforgiving. Vanessa's gaze returned to me, pleading now, not angry. You could have talked to me, she said. I met her eyes, steady and calm. I waited for you to talk to me, I said. You never did. Her composure cracked. She started explaining, justifying, rewriting. She talked about feeling unseen, about loneliness, about how things just happened. I let her speak, because lies unravel best when they're spoken out loud. Rachel listened without interrupting. When Vanessa finished, breathless and shaken, Rachel finally responded. He told me the same things, she said. Same words, same excuses. That was the moment Vanessa realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a pattern, and she was caught in it. Her eyes darted around, noticing the stares now, the quiet attention. She reached for my hand instinctively. I didn't pull away. I just didn't hold back. You didn't make a mistake, I said evenly. You made choices, over and over, and you planned them. Her hand fell. The strength drained from her shoulders. For the first time that night, she looked small, not because she was humiliated, but because the story she told herself had finally collapsed. Rachel placed a small envelope on the table. I don't need this anymore, she said. I just needed you to know I know. She turned to me. Thank you for telling me the truth. Then she walked away. Vanessa stared at the envelope like it might explode. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. The damage was already done. The drive home was silent, not tense, final. At the house, she lingered in the doorway like she didn't know where she belonged anymore. I never thought you'd do something like this, she said softly. I looked at her, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with clarity. I never thought I'd need to, I replied. That night, I slept in the guest room. And for the first time in months, I slept without the weight of uncertainty pressing against my chest. Because the truth was finally out. And the last move, the one that would change everything, had already been set in motion. The morning after the dinner felt unreal. Not heavy, not dramatic, just strangely clean. No shouting, No slammed doors. No desperate apologies. Vanessa moved through the house like a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. She packed slowly, deliberately, as if time might change something. I stayed out of her way, not out of fear, but because there was nothing left to say. Some conversations expire long before people notice. She tried once more at the kitchen counter, her voice quiet, controlled. "You planned this," she said. Not accusing, realizing. I nodded. "After you planned everything else." That was the last meaningful exchange we had. By noon, she was gone. What followed wasn't revenge in the way people imagine it. There were no social posts, no public shaming, no raised voices, just consequences, calm, legal, unavoidable. I met with my attorney that afternoon. Everything was already prepared. Documents signed. Accounts separated. Agreements clarified. I hadn't rushed any of it. I'd simply accepted that trust, once broken, doesn't return through apologies. Vanessa assumed I'd beg. She was wrong. Colin tried to reach me later that week. Once by email, once by voicemail. His tone shifted between defensive and desperate. I never replied. Rachel, however, sent one final message. "It's done," she wrote. "Thank you for standing firm." I wished her peace, and I meant it. The weeks that followed were quieter than I expected. Friends noticed changes, but didn't press. I didn't explain. I didn't need validation. Closure isn't something other people give you. It's something you take back. Vanessa struggled, not because she lost me, but because she lost control of the narrative. Her story no longer worked. People asked questions she couldn't answer without admitting the truth. Colin faded from her life once secrecy disappeared. Whatever thrill they shared didn't survive daylight. I watched all of it from a distance, not with satisfaction, with acceptance. I returned to routines I'd abandoned. Morning walks, cooking meals instead of eating late and distracted, sleeping without waiting for someone who might not come home. Peace isn't loud. It settles in quietly when chaos leaves. One evening, weeks later, I ran into Rachel by chance at a bookstore. We exchanged a few words, nothing heavy. No shared trauma talk, just mutual understanding. We smiled, and then we went our separate ways. That was enough. Vanessa sent a message months later. Long, emotional, reflective. I didn't respond. Some doors don't close dramatically. They simply stop opening. Looking back, I realized the night at the restaurant wasn't about exposure. It was about balance, about restoring truth to a situation that had been distorted by lies. I didn't win. I reclaimed myself. Because the strongest revenge isn't humiliation. It's moving forward without bitterness. It's becoming someone the past no longer controls. And the quiet confidence of knowing that when everything collapsed, I didn't fall with it.